This week on In Post, processing a soft, calm, foggy image of Lake Hodges. Hi everyone, I'm Scott Davenport, and thanks for joining me this week on In Post, this little series where I take an image through my post-processing workflow, and it's usually an image I've shown you some behind-the-scenes footage from the actual shoot. So this week I've got some images from Lake Hodges, and we'll work through one of them here in particular. I'll be upfront, these are not my strongest images, and you can see in the field episode I talk about, I left the shoot feeling like I wanted something a little bit more. But these will provide me a good means to go explore Lightroom. I'm a reasonably new Lightroom user, and so having this set of images, I'm just going to use them to help me get more familiar with what Lightroom can and can't do, explore some of the pains and tools that I might not normally use in Lightroom. So let's get over to the computer and give it a go. All right, so this is the image that came straight out of the camera, and here is the final image, which was really a product of tinkering around in Lightroom. I didn't have as much of a structured plan for the image as I normally might. It's not an incredibly strong image, but it was an opportunity to go and experiment with different tools and see how they worked. So let me turn that preview off again, and you can see that I used the retouching tools, primarily cloning, to take these trees off the line there. They're just too small. If these were in the foreground, like prominent, and you get like a nice idea of fog and mist because of the trees slowly fading in the background, I would have kept those. These ones, they just look distracting and annoying. And a few buoys that are strung up across lines there. I guess that's mainly for, I don't know if that's for low aircraft or things like that. Retouch those away along with some dust spots there. And let me put the preview back on so you can see that's gone. The water's been cleaned up, and the trees are taken care of here. I knew pretty quickly I wanted to do this as black and white, so I did start with basic like I normally do. Cranked up the contrast a whole bunch. If you remember, if you saw the in the field episode, you saw that the histogram of my camera was really, everything was condensed in the middle. A lot of gray in the scene, very few, if no blacks, very few, if no whites. And so I used contrast to stretch that out quite a bit. I'm not expecting to get pure whites into this photo. Maybe this little trail here and the very upper edge is the only tiny bits of white that we're going to see in there. Did increase the highlights more, boost those up even further, brought the shadows way down so I could start to get some of these foreground hills showing up, and then played around with white and black point, again, just so I had something just touching the edge, and I always like to clip a little bit of my blacks. I also played with the tone curve, just real standard subtle S-curve, playing with the sliders until I got that. It's just to take those shadows, make them a little bit darker, take those highlights, make them a little bit brighter, and add another layer and level of contrast. Into black and white, this was the product of experimentation. I did not have a set formula for how I was going to set these. It kind of looks like I do with this gentle curve. If you connect all the dots here, that's not how it was. This was purely trying things out, playing around to effectively what I wanted is I wanted these hills here to be darker and more prominent as a result. So these are closer to the camera. There's less haze over them. And I wanted these hills to be brighter and fading into the distance. And keeping those things in mind, I manipulated these sliders and came up with these settings. Did a little more detail work. So for particularly this foreground hill, somewhat here, I wanted to make sure there was a good level of detail. So boosted that up just a little bit. Again, reinforcing things that are closer to the camera. I can see better, there's less haze, and things that are farther away are misty, they're more mysterious, they're less defined, and it conveys that sense of depth in this image. The one final thing I did is used a filter brush. And what I did here, there's two of them. For the first one, click on this one. You can see I've increased clarity right here, increased clarity and a little bit of sharpness. And that was further reinforcing that these foreground hills should be a little crisper. Now this other one here, where I've just brushed over the top of the hill, click on that, you can see what I've done. I increased this shadow slider to 35. I'll decrease it and you can see the effect. It's making it darker. I made the shadows opened up a little bit more, and that gives a little enhancement of this mist that's at the edge of this hill, just to give it a little bit of a kick, just that little brush over there, so that that part of the hill, the shadows are a little less dark, and it's starting to convey that sense of depth and that sense that, you know, the fog is still enveloping these hills quite a bit. A tip of the week, I guess, really is the Lightroom filter brushes, and using those to selectively, you know, alter or, you know, modify, craft areas of your image. You know, in particular, I liked how playing with the shadows, opening up those shadows a little bit on the ridge of that hill, actually gave a more of a emphasis on the fog rolling over the hill. I thought that came out pretty nice. That's it for this week in post. Thanks very much for joining me, and I hope you were able to pick up a tip or two that you can use with your photography. And speaking of your photos and your questions, keep them coming. You've been great sending in questions, asking various things. I've gotten everything from printing to sharpness to, you know, things about color. And I hope to be able to answer those pretty quickly through email to whomever asked, but also take some of those and turn them into in-post episodes so that we can all, you know, gain from the answers and gain from the questions. You know, they really help me think about my photography, and hopefully the end result is we all become better photographers together. So until next time, I'm Scott Davenport, and thanks again for joining me.